Lamata Matzlacha. We're going to start in a moment. Okay, Chevra, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We made copies. We distributed copies. Okay, one page. I think we should begin. We don't have to punish those who come on time, right? Let me put this off. Okay, so it's one page, you see, and it's just one-sided. Morgen Alechem Shalom.
Waiting for your shoes, not punishment.
Thank you. Welcome everybody. Baruchim Habayim. I guess I could welcome myself too after our break. We usually don't have a shiur on Erev Shabbos on Friday. Since it's Erev Shabbos Friday, so I chose here and made a copy of two pieces, two shtiklach. One is from the Sfas Emes, and one is from the Moir Einayim, on the parshas of these weeks, Tazria and Mitzayra. I hope we'll be able to go through both of them. The first is the Sfas Emes, and the second is the Moir Einayim. Chronologically, it's the other way, but the second one is a little more elaborate and complex. I thought we'll first start with the Sfas Emes. This is from the Sfas Emes, Parshas Tazria, from the year Tofresh Lamed Aleph. Even though some of you may know it, but it's good to reiterate, especially there may be a few who don't. The Sfas Emes was the second Rebbe of Ger, of the Hasidic dynasty of Ger. The first one was his grandfather, known as the Chidushei Harim. Rim is Rosh Tevis, acronym Rabbi Yitzchak Mordechai. They called him Rabbi Itche Meyer. Rabbi Itche Meyer of Ger. He was the first Rebbe of Ger. He was a student of the Kotzker Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Morgenstern. And after his passing, he became the first Admur, the first master of the Hasidic dynasty of Gur, which is not far from Warsaw. It's a short trip from Warsaw in Poland. The Chidushei Harim lost all of his children in his lifetime, more than 10 children, including his son, who was the father of the Sfas Emes. And the father of the Sfas Emes died young, so the Chidushei Harim raised his grandson, the Sfas Emes, whose name was Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh Leib. When the Chidushei Harim passed away, the Sfas Emes, his grandson, even though he was quite a very young man, he succeeded him as the second Rebbe of the dynasty of Ger. And his Torah is compiled in the work Sfas Emes. You have Sfas Emes on Shas, and you have Sfas Emes on Chumash. The Sfas Emes would say Torah on Shabbos or Yom Tov, and I think after Shabbos he wrote down very short, brief, and pretty cryptic notes of his Torah, and that was published in the work Sfas Emes, and that's why it's a hard work, because it's very, very brief. It's really notes that he wrote down for himself to memorize, I think, or just to have it on file, and then it was printed. So each paragraph is very, very brief, concise, often very cryptic. Most importantly, it's very hard to understand Sfas Emes if a person doesn't have a thorough appreciation of a lot of the fundamental ideas of Pnimiyus HaTorah, of Torah HaKabbalah, the teachings of all the teachings of Chassidus. So this is one piece from the Sfas Emes, Parshas Tazria. Sfas Emes passed away, Hei Shvat, Tofresh Samach Hei, 1905. And then he was succeeded by his son, who's known as the Imrei Emes. Rabbi Avraham Mordechai was his name, Rabbi Avraham Mordechai. And he passed away in 1948, and he was succeeded by his son, Rabbi Yisrael, the Beis Yisrael, passed away in 1977, was succeeded by his brother, Rabbi Simcha Binim, the Lev Simcha. When he passed away, I think in 93 or 94, he was succeeded by his brother. Beis Yisrael had 3 children, and they all, first the Beis Yisrael, then his brother, the Lev Simcha, and then his brother, the Pnei Menachem. And when he passed away, his nephew took over, son of the Leif Simcha, who is the present Gerer Rebbe, Rabbi Yankala, who was just here for a few weeks in Monsey. Okay. And he focuses, so just a little history, it's good to have the historical context. So everybody knows that both the Parsha and Tazria and Metzora deal with primarily, not completely, but primarily with tzaras, with the symptoms of what we call leprosy. I say what we call because it's not exactly leprosy. Leprosy is a skin disease. The symptoms of the Metzora described in Parshas Tazria and Metzora, in addition to the fact that you had leprosy on clothes and leprosy in homes, which is completely disconnected to the term leprosy, but even leprosy in terms of a skin disease, the symptoms in Parshas Tazria are not the same symptoms. They are both, they're similar in the sense that leprosy represents a disconfiguration of the skin and the color of the skin and so forth. So it's translated as leprosy, but it's not the most accurate translation because tzaras was really unique symptoms that we don't see in the contemporary world.
In India.
In
India, there's not much.
Yeah. No, I'm saying leprosy. But the symptoms of Tazria you don't see today. There's a whole famous Ramban about this. Why? Along Ramban, and the Rambam also in Hilchos Tumas Tzaras. When it comes to Chumash, the Chumash you could pass. Thank you very much. When it comes to the cleansing of this symptom, so the impurities are discussed in Parshas Tazria. The cleansing is discussed next week in Parshas Metzora. Most years Tazria and Metzora are connected to each other. This year is a leap year, it's a Shana Muberes, it's an extra month, so Tazria and Metzora are disconnected from each other. But usually in the Shana Pshutas, when there's no leap years, Tazria and Metzora are one. So the way Metzora begins is Zois Tia Teiras HaMetzora B'Yom Ta'arasai. The day that he becomes pure, this shall be the Torah, the law of the Metzora he's brought to the Kohen, and the Kohen has to go out and see that the symptoms are gone. As long as the symptoms were still intact, the main symptom, of course, was that part of the skin developed into a white patch, and the hair also was transformed from black to white. That was the first symptom of tzaras. Of course, it had to be a certain type of white, which Chazal discuss. The pasuk says Se'es, Sapachas, Baheres, Dalad, Maris, Nagoyim, different shades of white. So the Kohen had to determine all of this. And when he saw that the symptoms were gone, as long as the symptoms were not gone, the state of impurity was intact, and the Metzora was also living outside of the camp. He couldn't be within the community. There was a special place where he would be. He would be safe and secure, and they made sure he had food and everything, but he was alone. Bodad Yeshev. When the Kohen goes out and sees that the symptoms are gone, so now starts a process of cleansing, of Tara. So the Torah says 2 birds have to be taken. And then there's another very interesting thing that's brought in. Ve'etz erez, which is cedar wood. Cedar wood. Then there's shnisai las, which is basically a thread. It's called crimson. It's a scarlet red thread. Ve'ezov, which was similar to the color that came from a tailas, a particular type of worm, crimson. And then ve'ezov. Ezov is usually translated as a hyssop, which is a certain type of herb. Some argue with that translation, but it's basically an herb that grows, and he had to take that as well. And he would dip the wood of the cedar and the thread which was dyed with the crimson red scarlet color, and the hyssop, and he would dip it into the blood that was from the bird that was slaughtered, and he sprinkled it on the person who was a Metzora, and the person was a leper 7 times, and this was the beginning of the cleansing process. When it was all gone, and he could come back in. So Rashi asks, why eitz erez? Why cedar? What's up with cedar? From everything. I mean, you're looking for something to dip. So Rashi says, because the leprosy, part of it had to do with arrogance. Now, what's the connection to erez? The erez, we say in Tehillim, Tzadik Hatama Yifrach, Ke'erez balavon in Yizga. He blossoms like a cedar in Lebanon. The cedar tree is considered one of the tallest, proudest, most powerful, strongest trees. Very, very impressive. Its height leaves an impression. It towers over above all of its trees, representing a sense of superiority and royalty and richness and power. That's the erez. The ezev, Rashi says, it's a very, very low bush. The hyssop is very, very low. In other words, the contrast. It's a contrast to the cedar. So Rashi says, that's why the Torah says to take this. Why? Because ma takanose v'yisrape, I'm quoting Rashi. What does this person need to do to heal? In the beginning of Mitzvah, Shnise Laz v'ezev. Ma takanose v'yisrape. Right in the beginning of Parshas. What should he do to heal? Yashpil atzme migavose ketelasu ke'ezev. He has to humble himself from his arrogance, like a worm, ketelas, and an ezev, like a hyssop bush. That's why these two plants were used in the cleansing of the tzaras. Yeah. So that's the quote to understand this Sfas Emes's opening words. B'Rashi, Eitz Erez Shenizgah. The cedar tree, because he was arrogant. Ve'ezov, the hyssop, sheyashpil atzmo, should humble himself. V'lama, Eitz Erez, Eitz el hakapara, shezeh ha'ira al mashachata v'kilkel. Apparently, why is it, someone is asking a question, I understand why the Torah would want you to use an ezov, because now it's important for him to introduce humility. Why are you bringing in the erez? The erez is something he has to get away from. When you're using an erez, you want him not to learn from the erez. He was like an erez, and now he's going into the world of ezov, from arrogance, from haughtiness to humility. So why, when he's atoning for his flaw, when he's trying to cleanse himself from his sin, do you bring in the cedar, which actually represents the chet, the kilkul, the moral deterioration of this person? If you wish, you can at least homiletically apply the famous quote of the Chazal, Ein kateger, nasa saneger. The prosecutor doesn't become the lawyer. The erez is the prosecutor, the cedar tree. This is what he's getting away from. This is what he's stepping away from. Why are you bringing this in? It's like, well, you want to remind him of the negative. The point is the ezov, not the erez. He was an erez. Now, people shout the way you learn the Rashi. For the Sfas Emes, people shout the way you learn the Rashi is that this is part of the tutorial. In other words, it's part of the lecture that the Kohen has to give the Mitzvah. It's part of the Shir that the Mitzvah has to go through. That there's an erez and there's an ezov, and your problem was you were like an erez, and now you have to become like an ezov. Right? Ein chanami. That's true that you have to explain this to him. But what we see from here is that you need the ezov for the cleansing. You need the ezov for the kapara. It's not just you need the ezov to understand how to get kapara. Part of the cleansing of the Mitzvah was through not the ezov, was through the erez. You need the ezov for the tara and also the erez for the kapara. That's what he's saying. Lama eitz ala kapara. It seems like that's part of the atonement. The explanation is ki hashiflos tzarich liyas hayidei ze atzmai shenizgah. Because there's no ezov without the erez. You can't have the experience of the ezov, which is humility, without the erez. The humility has to come from that itself, shenizgah. The humility must come from the experience that he felt so arrogant. Shetzarich leida, a person has to know. Af sheyiyeh mashahu. He may be who he is. Person may be who he is in a very positive sense. He may be great, talented, and resourceful, and full of accomplishment and virtue. But kishenizgah, the moment he becomes arrogant, v'nidmeloi sheyesh leili hizgayos, the moment he looks in the mirror and feels that he ought to be arrogant, he has with what? Yeshloi. He has with what his goes, what to be arrogant. If a person is experiencing that feeling, then he must be aware of how lowly he is. Why? L'chayri is saying this person is taka great. That's not that he's lying to himself, he's deceiving himself. He may taka be great. And therefore, there is a sense of geus, a sense of haughtiness. It says, Kikol haratzin, me Hashem yizbarach, lahagia loza, leida ki hakol mimenu yizbarach, ukeshechaser ze hakol hevel. The entire ratzin, the entire will of Hashem, what a person should reach for is to know that everything comes from Hashem. And if this is missing, is hakol hevel, everything is in vain. When a person is missing this essential idea, this essential conviction, that everything he has, including his talents and his strength and his resources and his success and his greatness and his virtues, whatever it is he's essentially a conduit for the divine energy. It's a gift that comes from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Hakol memeni yizbarach. If he's missing this, hakol hevel. Not because he doesn't have a lot. Ultimately, it's all vanity. And therefore, he truly becomes a very lowly person. He has to realize that at that moment, he becomes the lowliest person when he feels truly arrogant and superior to others. V'adoini aviskeni moiri v'Rabbi zeichet tzadik livracha l'chaya elam haba. My grandfather, my teacher, the Chidushei Harim, Omar once said, B'shem harav zechrona livracha mepshischa. My grandfather, Chidushei Harim, said, from the Rebbe Reb Simcha Binim of Pshischa, Al Masha Kasav, on what we say, or Al Masha what we say every morning, Magbia Shvalim, Umashpil Geim. You remember where we say this? Very good, Lenny. Thank you for coming to the rescue. Give a minute. So the expression is Magbia Shvalim Admarim, right before Shemina Esra, and the bracha after Kriyat Shema. It starts off Emes v'Yatzav v'Nachin. So middle of Ezras, we say as follows: Ram v'Nisa Gadol v'Noira, Mashpil Geim Adei Aretz, Umagbia Shvalim Adei Marim. What does this mean? Mashpil Geim. Geim means like Kigoi Go, from the word Gaiva, arrogant, haughty, superior. Mashpil Geim. He takes the Geim, those who are haughty, arrogant, narcissistic, exalted, feel superior to everybody, and humbles them, Adei Aretz, till the ground. And the contrary, Umagbia Shvalim. And he takes the Shvalim, those who are humble, and he lifts them up, Ad Marim, all to the heavens. Then Moitzi Asirim, Paida Novim. And this is what we say right before Shemini Esrei, this contrast. A person thinks he's on top of the world, arrogant, mashpil geim adei aretz. On the contrary, sometimes a person feels shuffle without anything. You should know Magbia Shvalim Admar. So he said, I heard from my grandfather, who said from the Simcha Binim of Pshischa. We say Magbia Shvalim and mashpil geim. An interesting question. Meyachesh Magbia hashafel lama mashpil kedei lahagbia. If you're saying a blanket statement, Mashpil Geim and Magbia Shvalim. No, so once he's Magbia the shuffle, so now the shuffle went up. So what happens next? Mashpil, he goes down. So what happens when you come down? He picks you up again. So what is this? Like a Ferris wheel? You go down, so he's going to pick you up. Oh, you're up. Time to go down. Well, what's going on? Right? Mamish, that's what it is. A fast Ferris wheel. A roller coaster better. A roller coaster. Huh? Yeah, you're juggling. What's the point? Magbia Shvalim Admarim. Fine, say good. Mashpil Geim Adei Aretz. No, now I'm Aretz, so I go back up. Oh, I'm up, I go back down. That's what he asked. Ma'achash Magbia Shafel. Since you're telling me that he lifts up those who are humble, is Lama Mashpil. So why is he now humbling them? Kidei Lagbiyam, just to pick them up again. So I heard from my grandfather, who said from Rabbinim of Pshischa. The pshat is shemagbia shvalim sheyishoyer shafel af shehu mugba. Magbiya Shvalim doesn't only mean he lifts up those who are Shvalim. They remain Shvalim. Magbiya Shvalim Admarim, he lifts up the humble ones until the heavens. What does it mean he lifts them up? He lifts them up and they remain uplifted as Shvalim, as humble people. They don't go down. Magmash Bilgeim Adei Aretz, or Magbiya Shvalim Admarim. It's not pshat he lifts up the humble ones, so now they're up there, they become arrogant. Then Taki, you go down again. Magbiya Shvalim, that they should remain Shvalim even when they're in the heavens. So it's completely two separate things. That's what Magbiya Shvalim means. What does this mean? V'zemi shebe'emes. If a person is so high, how is he a shuffle? So v'zeh, this applies mi shebe'emes. A person who truthfully understands that afshe agbiya isa, even if God lifts him up to the highest places. In other words, sometimes a person looks at their life and you mamish, you're a success story, there's no question. You're on top of the world. This person who truthfully understands, yes, but this is all him, this is all, I am a conduit for God's energy, this is Hashem doing it. Then that's the greatest hagbah. That's actually what makes you so gavoya. What makes a person so tall is the fact that he's a shuffle. That's what makes the person so great. That's what allows the person to be so great. And that is what constitutes his greatness. It's not just he's saying that even if you're great, you should know it's not from you. No. That knowledge is your greatest greatness. The moment you have this knowledge, then you become the greatest person. Why? Why do you think you become the greatest? Because now you could be a conduit for infinity. Now Hashem could shine through you. Now the ego doesn't become a blockage. So he says, Hareyu mugbe b'yidi yasei. V'chein kasev, that's what Shlomo the Navi says, Al yishalel chacham b'chachmasai, gibur b'gvurasai, kiyim b'zois yishalel. A person who fears God. This is basically what the Navi is saying. V'chein, now the other way. Mashpil geim. He humbles the arrogant. It doesn't only mean a person who's arrogant gets humbled. That too, but it means something deeper. The lowliest thing you can experience in life is to be arrogant. That's the low. You can't get more lowly. Why? Why? Because you're cutting yourself off from yourself. You lose your true I. You cut yourself off from the source of your own life. The Gemara says in the beginning of Maseches Saita that Hashem says about a balgaiv, an arrogant person, we can't live in the same place. We can't live in the same roof. This means the arrogant person, Hashem says, I could live with everybody, but I can't live under the same roof with you. So that means he can't live with God. So what does it mean he can't live with God? It means he can't live with himself. He can't live with his own source of life. The shayrish hachiyus of everything is Hashem. Hashem says, I can't live with you means this person has to live like in a bubble, detached. Detached. So the greatest humiliating experience in life is that I'm arrogant. That I detach myself from my source. That I don't understand who I really am. They say a story about the Heilige Ruzhin, Rabbi Saul of Ruzhin, that he was once traveling and he came to a place and there was a fellow there, a very, very wealthy and respectable person who came out to greet him. And he said that the custom is that all the prominent people who come to town stay in my house. They stay in my house, so I hope you'll also stay in my house. But in reality, he chose to stay by somebody else. So this person came into the Bistro of Vision. He says, I don't understand. I have a beautiful house. I'm very hospitable. Everybody respects me. I'm considered one of the most prominent people in the city. The person you stayed by, Taka has a nice house, but his yirah shamayim, his fear of heaven is nicht as mefukbuk. It's not so. There's different opinions about it. It's not so pashut. I don't understand why you would choose his house over my house. So he said, Ich hab sich gelernt von dem Ebersten. I'm trying to emulate God. It says in Parshas Acharei Mos, we're soon going to learn, Hashoichen itam b'soich temoisam. Hashem dwells with the Jewish people in the midst of their purity, as Chazal say, Rashi brings, Afal pi shetmeim hem shchinas yishayir b'soichem. Even when they're impure, my divine presence is there. When it comes to arrogance, he says, Eina nivuhu yechaylen lada b'makam echad. I can't live in the same place. So we see Hashem, he could go to a house that has some issues. But to go to a place of arrogance, he said, I can't live there. So he says, that's why I chose that home over this home. Okay. The person got the lesson of his life. So what's the point here? Because what does arrogance mean? Arrogance doesn't mean a person is satisfied. That's not arrogance. Arrogance means the person replaces God in their own mind. I become this sense of arrogance, of haughtiness. I'm filled with myself. And I don't realize who I am. I'm an expression of the infinite light. So the most exalted experience in life is to be humble. That's when you become the greatest person in the world. The most humiliating and humbling experience in life is, more than anything else, is to be arrogant. It's the most embarrassing thing. Why? Because everything else, I have this flaw, I have a problem, I have a challenge, but I'm not cut off from my source. Here, I'm cut off from my source, because what is the definition of real arrogance? Me, me, me. And the truth of me is that I'm an expression of the oneness of Hashem. And that's why Hashem says, with this person I can't live in the same roof, because it's mutually exclusive. Because this person says, only me, ich, I, that sense of arrogance. So Mele, it becomes mutually exclusive from his perspective. This also says in Zohar, the Zohar says, Mandu Rav hu ze'er. Chuli. The end of the Zohar is, it says, whoever is Rav, meaning he thinks he's great, he's small. And he who's small is great. So what does it mean? It's not pshat only. If you think you're big, you're really not big. If you think you're small, you're big. The vart is, that is what makes a person Rav. The sense of Ze'er turns you into the greatest Rav, the greatest of the world. Why? Because your greatness could now reflect ultimate greatness. Divine greatness. You become a conduit for infinity. On the contrary, if the person is Rav on their own, they detach themselves from the source of greatness, so then it becomes like a little Zair. An illustration. A person is walking in the street. And there's a leaf on the tree. And the leaf, you ever have conversations with leaves on trees in your own mind sometimes, yeah? And the leaf has a conversation with you, and the leaf says, I'm jealous. You walk where you want. I'm here connected to this tree by shackles. This is a prison. My greatest dream in life is if I could just detach myself and I'm free to explore the world. I can travel to New Zealand. I can travel to Hong Kong. I can travel to the South America, to the Africas. I can explore the world. A freie mensch, a free person, a free leaf. And what happens? The leaf works very, very hard, and after a lot of work, detaches itself from the tree, falls down to the ground, starts rolling. Mechaya. Down this street, Segate, Seflist. And then the leaf ends up on the sewage, on the sewage pipe. It plugs the sewage pipe. What's the mistake of this leaf? The mistake of this leaf is he's detaching himself from his source of life. Before, he was part of a beautiful tree. And now he becomes a lifeless, dead leaf. He can't live outside of the tree. The independence is not a blessing. The independence is a curse. It's like a person saying, it's like an arm saying, when I'll detach myself from this stupid brain that's controlling me, then I'll be free. When you detach yourself from your brain, you become a lifeless piece of flesh. Now you're part of an extraordinary organism. This is a mashal to understand all of life. The whole world is that way. There's an organism. The Aviz Reb Nosson says that the olam is a guf chai. It's one big organism. We look at our body is just a microcosm of the whole universe, is one big guf. And there's the brain, there's the consciousness, there's the essence. When somebody cultivates a sense of shiflus, what's pshat shiflus? Shiflus doesn't mean humility in the sense that I'm nothing, I'm valueless. No, that everything I have is really divine. So now, this is nothing greater than this. On the contrary, it's the exact opposite. Magbia shvalim admarim. They never come down, they stay up. Mashpil geim adei aretz. The ways Magbia shvalim is, they remain shvalim. Even when they're in marim, they're shvalim. Because they know who they really are. V'chein, mi sheyedeya shahakol me'Hashem yizbarach v'davak b'shoyer shachayis harei urav. If he knows everything is from Hashem and he remains connected to the source of the life, then he's in the greatest place. Ki bevadai eina mechuven liyos adam anav al yedei dimyon sheker. It's obvious that humility in Judaism doesn't mean that you start becoming delusional, even if it's false. If a person is tall, what does it mean to be an anav? I'm really short. And if I'm smart, I say I'm dumb. And if I'm gorgeous, I say I'm ugly. And if I'm successful, I say I'm a loser. That's not anava. That's called stupidity. Or he calls it dimyon sheker. It's bashat sheker. What if a person is talented? What if a person is resourceful? What if a person is creative? What if a person has tremendous talents? Let's take Moshe. Moshe, it says that he was anav ma'od mikol adam asher al pnei adam. He was the humblest person from every person on earth. If you teach anava meaning, you look at yourself and you say, it's not true, it's not true. Somebody come, that's not true, it's not true. I'm a nobody, I'm mamish, I've been a garnish, you don't even know about. Afshe bevada yada ki hu adas shall call Yisrael. Moshe couldn't do what he did if he didn't know who he was. It was impossible. Moshe didn't know that Hashem chose him, not anybody else. Why did he fight Korach? Korach said, Moshe said, oh, you're right, Takich ben garnished. I'm retiring, you take over. You can't be a leader like that. He says, Moshe knew that he was the das of Klal Yisrael. He was the das, is the koyach hadas, the consciousness, the perception of Klal Yisrael. He knew that. How can he be anav ma'od mikol adam asher? I could say maybe anav from certain people. Anav ma'od mikol. Everybody he saw was anav. The pshat is now you can understand. Moshe understood better than anybody else this truth. Because he was Moshe, like we learned many times, the dveikus of Moshe coming from the water, min hamayim mishisiyu, the Leviathan that we spoke about. Because he was Moshe, he understood this better than anybody else. That's why he was more humble than any person in the world. So other people are not so humble. When you become Moshe, who's greater than everybody, he's also more humble than everybody. What made Moshe the greatest person in the world was that he understood that he's a conduit for infinity, so he became infinite. That's how Taki became the greatest person. It's not pshat. Even though he was great, he was also a nice guy. He was humble. No, it's his anav ma'od that is one with his greatness. It's the magbia shvalim admonim, not pshat. You're a shuffle, even though you're great. It's the shiflus that is the ultimate greatness. The shiflus that comes with that greatness, and that is greater even than all your milas, because it puts the milas in context. And it gives the milas the koyach of elikus, the koyach of godliness. You versteht? This is what humility is. Humility never means you look at yourself and you don't appreciate who you are. Every person has milas. Every person has tchunas hanef. Every person has characteristics, virtues, great things. Every person has a mission. If you don't appreciate who you are, you can never fulfill your mission. If a person has certain chushim, certain koyches, you can never fulfill them. Another never means you delegitimize yourself and undermine your resourcefulness. It means you have to be honest with your chesroinus, but you also have to be honest with your milas. Just like a person has to know their flaws, they also have to know their milas, their qualifications. If not, it's a similar chesaron. And shiflus another never means to undermine that. What does it mean? It means to understand you're a messenger. You're a conduit. You are shliach of the Ribbono Shel Olam. It comes from him, it's his gifts. And as it says, the Balatanya writes somewhere that Moshe Rabbeinu also felt that if somebody would have been given all the gifts that he had, perhaps that person may have maximized it more. That's why he didn't only feel humble, stam, onav ma'od mikol adam asher al pnei adam, even if he looked at a person. Said if this person would have had all my gifts, perhaps he would have maximized them more. So he even had that sense of humility in the presence of other people. Mikol ha'adam. And ha'adam. Mikol ha'adam. In other words, there was no exception. Every person on the face of the earth, Asher al pnei ha'adam, Moshe could look at him. As they say, begovai inayim. What do they say in Hebrew? He could, how do you say it in English? It's a good expression, huh? No, like a real, he could just look at the person with full respect. Usually you would expect when Moshe Rabbeinu was having a conversation with somebody, it was like, don't even think you're getting close to me. This sense of condescending, and for good reason. Who was on a mountain for 40 days? You on the mountain for 40 days? I was on the mountain. He was on the mountain 40 days. But it never touched him. It never got to him. If it would have gotten to him, he could have never been Moshe.
Don't we learn the opposite at the beginning in Bereshis where it says Yaakov, Ish es aviv v'simo, so you have to detach yourself from the root source, not like a leaf.
V'davak be'ishtoi, who was Adam and Chava were originally one. So that's going back to the original source. Adam and Chava were one. A father and mother are there to help the child to be able to go back to Chava and become one with the original source. It's a training ground.
Meaning that they were originally
Adam and Chava were originally one and then separated, yeah. The Ramban writes in Bereshis, why is it that only man and woman were created this way? All the animals were created as couples. Male horse, male bull, female cow, because that's how they were created. Male lion, female lioness. You had two species, Zachar and Nekeva, right, like we have by the Teva, and then they procreated. The only exception is Adam and Chava. Adam and Chava were created l'chatchila as one, right, mamish one, bara oisai, and then he went to sleep, and there was a whole surgical decoupling. They were like Siamese twins, du partsufim, and then he separated them. So the Ramban says, very fascinatingly, because if it would have been the other way, then the only purpose of marriage would be procreation. The only purpose of marriage would be to bring in a new generation, but not for the unity itself. Adam and Chava were created as one, so that when the husband and the wife come back together, it's not a union, it's a reunion. The unity itself is significant. It's not just the purpose of having children. On the contrary, because this is their ultimate self, therefore they can bring a new generation into the world. So it's a whole different idea about marriage as a result of this type of creation. So v'hayu lebasar echad, because they were echad. They were originally echad. That's when the Ramban explains. It has a lot of application, especially for this generation, when the concept of marriage is starting to be understood less and even less.
So the real source of life is, you're saying, in the
Adam and Chava, yeah. When I do chuppahs, I always start off, we're not at a union, we are at a reunion. The union already happened a long time ago, before I was the MC of this chuppah. Happened a very long time ago. This is a reunion. The Balatanya has a maimah, he says somewhere, interesting vart. He says that the reason this chasana is such a great simcha, what's the big simcha? There's a lot of happy moments in life, yeah? Why is a chasana such a big simcha? Yeah. So some people would say because it's the beginning of the next generation, right? Which is true, it is the beginning of the next generation. But you'll see, for example, when you have a child, it's mamish the beginning of the next generation. There's also a simcha, Nekah Shalom Zacha, with a bris, a kiddush, but it's not like a chasana. So if the whole simcha of the chasana is just because it's the potential for the new generation, when the actual new generation comes in, so man echt machen a chasana, yeah? So by the Chassidin, they have Wachnachtag. Some people spend on it more than a wedding, I see. But, so this truth is, he says, there's something very deep about it. He says, imagine two people who were best friends, mamish best friends, and then they were separated. And they were separated for decades. And then they came back together. He says it's a tremendous simcha. This is one of the deepest simchas in life. So he says that the two souls were really one before they were born. And then they were separated. And the chuppah, they reunite. Says that's a tremendous simcha. So that's coming back to your shayrish, to the achdus. Yeah. Fakert, if you stay with your father and mother, you remain half. You're a wonderful person, but you remain half. Yeah. So therefore, Moshe could be anav ma'od mikol adam. Im kein af shebevada yesh b'chol avoid nekuda min ha'adam ba'atzmei v'hu haratzon. Even though it's true that in every avodah there's a nekuda that comes from you yourself, and that's one thing: your ratzon, your desire. Desire, like we learned many times, is keser. It's even deeper than chachma. The ratzon, the desire is, if I want, I do. Ein lecha davar emet b'fnei haratzon. That's the nekuda that comes from the person. It's called choice. That in every situation of life, I have a choice. The choice is I'm going to be a victim, or I'm going to rise up to my true potential at that time. And this, kivayachal, at least on the surface, Hashem doesn't mix in. Hakol b'dei shamayim, chutz miyir shamayim. The choice you have to make at every moment. Yeah. He says, mikol makayim, a nikir mizeh la'adam klal leda, kama yesh ba'avedasa me'atzma. This is not something a person can say, okay, this I get credit for. This is not something that's nikir, that's recognizable. V'rak hakol me'Hashem yizbarach. Ve'eich yuchal lehizgoyes b'mesha einay shaloi. Even the ratzon, the ability to be able to choose, also is a gift. That's also a gift. And that nikuda that we taka attribute to the person himself, he says it's a nikir. It's not recognizable to be able to say, this is really my credit, it's my ratzon. One never knows how much God is truly involved in every nikud of a person's life, even as I'm making those courageous choices. You know, he may be standing right there, yeah, go, run. So now I suddenly,
It's not us. It's even us.
He doesn't say clearly. In other words, he says, Ein nikim mizeh leida kama yesh ba'avedasa me'atzmei, ha'kel ma'Hashem yizbarach.
It's also a gift.
If it's a gift, it's not a free choice.
Why not? It's a gift to be able to have free choice.
Wait a second. Well, that's not complicated. Is it gift or it's our free will? If it's ours or not. I want to be wrong here. I want to just make sure I'm wrong.
He says, Rak HaKol Ma'Hashem Yizbarach. He says two things. Rak HaKol sounds like everything is a gift, and also a nikir. It's very. These are things that are so subtle. You know, we're. Yeah. So how can a person be arrogant about something that's completely not his? Yeah, a person inherited billions and billions of dollars, and then they walk around saying, yeah, you know what I accomplished in my life? It's a joke. Now, even though a person has to develop, Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't given everything. He was given the potential, but you have to develop the potential. That's why he says there's a ratzon. You have to develop it. If a person doesn't develop it, you could be the most skilled athlete potentially. But if you're not training, you could be the most skilled dancer, the most skilled writer, the most skilled scientist, the most brilliant person. If you don't develop it, nothing is going to happen. The talents will remain latent and dormant and die. That's where you need avodah. That's where you need the ratzon. But that the person should become arrogant with that. He says, Eich yuchal lizgoyes b'mesh einay shaloi. V'hageyes atzmoi hu hasimin shul shafel b'emes. The greatest sign to a person of how lowly he is when he's feeling arrogant. Then he has to know, ooh, I've lost it. Now I'm in my lowest state possible. That's why Chazal say that the Metzora has to take the cedar and the ezev. So we asked, if the point is humility, what do you have to bring in now the cedar? That's the past. He says, what is the ezev? What is the humility? Not stam be a humble person. Understand that what makes you so low, what turned you into a tailas and an ezev was the eres. Without the eres, there's no ezev. It's not stam be a humble person. It's appreciating that the greatest humiliation in life is when you start feeling superior to others, arrogant, haughty, narcissistic, completely self-absorbed and self-centered. That is the greatest humility in life. It's not a separate thing. The eres is what makes the esav. When you understand that, that's the beginning of the healing. When a person understands that.
It's not feeling, it's action.
Action, yeah. Conviction and action. I mean, it's a value that leads to action. Moirei Naim, Parshas Mitzayra. The Moirei Naim is a sefer written by Reb Nachum Chernobyler. Reb Menachem Nachum of Chernobyl. His last name was Twersky. He was a Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov and then of the Maggid of Mezrich. He was born Tov Tzadik, 1730, and passed away at Aleph Cheshvan, Tov Kuf Nun Ches, 1797, Tov Kuf Nun Ches. He was considered one of the oldest Talmidim of the Maggid of Mezrich, and his Torah is in the Sefer Moirei Naim. Many of the Twerskis today, including the Hasidic dynasties of Twerskis, not all, but most of them are descendants of Reb Nachum Chernobyler, who was the father of the Chernobyler Maggid, who was Reb Motler Chernobyler, Reb Mordechai Chernobyler. He was the son of Reb Nachum Chernobyler, who was the Talmud of the Mezritcher Maggid. He has a piece here on these Parshas Tazria Mitzayra. And it's a very, very deep piece. It's a heavy piece. The Moirei Naim is also, it's brief. It's very, very profound. I'll read it. I'll try to explain it. I don't know if I can't tell you I understand it fully, but at least we'll get a certain ideas. So Gedaizel's bleiben for the Moirei Naim. Certain ideas we'll certainly get out of it, but in order to appreciate it, I copied here a shtickle Gemara, which is not there, but will just allow us to appreciate the Moirei Naim more. So Gemara Erken Daf Tesvav. That's the sugya that deals with leprosy, tzaras, and gossip. It's a whole amud about it, but I took a few lines. Almost a whole amud. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Moshe Rabbi Yossi ben Zimra. Kol hamasaper lashon hara kilu kafar beikar. A person who speaks gossip, slander, lashon hara, evil talk, it's like he denies Hashem. Shenemar, he brings a pasuk in Tehillim Yud Beis, Asher amru l'shaynenu nagbir svaseinu itanu mi adon lanu. They say to their tongues, they say to their lishaynenu, to their tongues, to their languages, nagbir svaseinu, let's strengthen our lips, itanu, for ourselves. Mi adon lanu, who is a master to us? So the pasuk Tehillim is associating evil, uncontrolled speech with Mi adon lanu, because we don't have a master, with denying Hashem. Amar Rabbi Yossi ben Zimra, kol hamasaper lashon hara negayim bayim alav. Leprosy was a symptom of lashon hara. Zois tia teiras hamitzayra, zois tia teirasu shall moitzi shemra. Mitzayra, the Gemara says, is a combination of the words moitzi ra, somebody who utters, moitzi shemra, somebody who slanders and gossips about people. Somebody who speaks lashon hara, Hashem says we can't live together in the same universe. Tana deber Rabbi Shmuel, kol hamasaper lashon hara, magdil avonos keneged shalosh averos kechavim gilarayis ruchas dam. Rabbi Shmuel says somebody who speaks lashon hara, the sins are as great as adultery, idolatry, and murder. These are the Gemaras. Now, when you look at it at the surface, it's hard to understand. Why did the Chazal see lashon hara in such dramatic terms? Literally, we understand lashon hara as being terrible because it harms other people. It harms other people. It could be harmful. Yeah. But then, if that's the issue, so why is your koifer beikar? Hashem says, I can't live with you in the same world. Why is it gili arayis, riches damim, avodah zarah, etc.? All these. What's the connection to leprosy, nagoyim? And you see two whole parshas, Tazria Mitzayra, dedicated to this, right? Hilchos Shabbos is all in one pasuk or two pasukim. And that happens every week. And the laws of tzaras is detailed, nuanced, with such details, the symptoms and what it looks like, and what color and what happens, and every type, and the shchin, and the mikveh, and the beard, and the hair, and this seir tzahiv, and all the symptoms, nigei batim, nigei begadim. Apparently it's a very, very central idea. So says the Moirei Naim. The Gemara says, Moitzi Ra. Mitzayra is Moitzi Ra. Shabavoin Lashon Hara Negayim Bayan. It's because of Lashon Hara, evil speech, negative speech, that caused Negayim. Avala Inyan, the explanation is the Ksiv, the Pasuk says in Bereshis bara l'kimus Hashemayim v'saretz. V'darshu Razal, b'shvil ha'Torah, b'shvil Yisrael. Rashi brings from the Medrash, Rashi says the word Bereshis is strange. Why? Because Bereshis, it should have said Berishoina. In the beginning, bara l'kimus Hashemayim v'saretz. Bereshis bara l'kim l'shamayim v'asaretz is like saying in English, in the beginning of God creating heaven and earth. And then what's the end of the sentence? So Rashi says maybe it goes to Pasuk Beis. The word Bereshis is a complicated word. Doesn't really fit in grammatically. So Rashi says, Eina mikra zeh oimer dar ela darsheni. The Pasuk asks you to explain it. Bereshis is Beis Reshis. There are two things in Tanakh called Reshis. The beginning. Torah is called Reshis and Yisrael are called Reshis. Hashem Kanani Reshis Darka, Yisrael Kodesh Yisrael Hashem Reshis Tfuasai. We're called Reshis. Bereshis is Beis Reshis. Because of two beginnings, Hashem created heaven and earth. Torah and Yisrael. Says in Ma'arinayim Nimtza Yisrael Heim Davar Chashuv Ma'od Lefnei Hashem Yisbarach. Shebishvilam Bara Kol Ha'olam is Kol Habruya. This means that when you're looking at a Jew, you have to understand the greatness, because for this person and for these people, Hashem created all the olamas, all the worlds. Because Bereshis includes all the worlds, all the creations were created for the Jew. V'Hashem Yisbarach mekabel tainug mikol echad mi Yisrael, afilu mirasha gadol. Hashem receives tremendous pleasure, ecstasy from every single Jew, even a Rasha Gadol. Even a Jew who's a Rasha Gadol, meaning he's completely not living up to his job as a Jew, living up to his mission. He's a Rasha, and he's a Rasha Gadol, not Stam a Rasha, a great one. Nonetheless, it doesn't take away from the fact that Hashem looks at him, sees him, and experiences tremendous tainuk from him. Why? His existence, his being. Think of it in terms of a child. A child may cause a lot of aggravation to a parent, may cause a lot of pain to a parent. But if the parent is healthy and in touch with their emotions, the reason I am so pained is because there's a tremendous love. If there wouldn't be tremendous love, why are you so pained? So we usually don't look at that. We see the pain. You're causing me so many headaches. You're causing me so much heartache. But the truth is, behind all of that, there's tremendous pain because you want to be close to this person. You feel so close to this person. That's why there's pain. So behind the pain, behind the anger, I should say, there's hurt. Behind the hurt is pain. And behind the pain, there's so much closeness. There's really so much closeness. And when you could see that in yourself, so then even in the pain, you could still feel the closeness, because you identify the pain as coming from closeness. And that's what every father has to know. You have to be able to feel that close. If you wouldn't feel that closeness, you wouldn't have pain. It's just we usually repress that because the anger takes over. You destroy my life. Fakert. Your neighbor's child becomes the most beloved child in the world. You want to swap. And your child becomes his greatest Russia in the world. But really, all your anger is coming from pain. And your pain is coming from a very, very deep love. And when you know that, then you will respond to your anger and your pain in a much better way than if you don't know that. Because if you don't know this, then how are you going to respond to your pain and anger? You'll alienate your child even more. You're like, get out of my life, get out of my house, you sick person. If you can go back to yourself and identify what's really happening, then you'll make sure that what you say at this moment and what you do at this moment will ultimately bring this child closer. So we have it, the Moirei Nayim says that even a Rasha Gadol, Hashem has tainug from him. Tainug from him. This is the Moirei Nayim. So you have a Jew, l'chayri is a big Rasha. You would think Hashem would say, out! He says he has tremendous pleasure from him. He has tremendous tainug. He's in love with him. I love this guy. I look at him and I have tremendous tainug. You know, you look at your baby, right? A terrorist. He destroys the whole house, yeah? Every book, the ice cream is everywhere. But when he's 3 years old, 4 years old, you look at him and I love you. He just destroyed the whole house. You pick him up. Problem is, when he's 14 years old, we forget how to say that. When he's 14 years old, suddenly I hate you. He's really still 3. Yeah? So this doesn't mean you're happy that he destroyed the house. It just means You love him, you're crazy about him, and you have tremendous time. You look at those cheeks, and you want to eat them up. I just poured the orange juice on the new carpet. That caused, fine, you're upset, but doesn't take away from the tainug that you have. The problem is when they grow older, we forget that part of it, because their cheeks are not as cute. And we're more stressed out. But it's really the same nakuda. Yeah. And he continues, that's what the Gemara says, Kepela charimin reikosech, afilu reikonim shabach, malayim mitzvahs kirimin. The Gemara says in Chagigah, it says in Shehashirim, the temples, the Kepela charimin, your temples look like a pomegranate. So the Medrash, the Gemara teaches, afilu reikonim, reikosech is, not only your temples, your reikim, your empty ones, the pusta kalim, the empty ones, are malayim mitzvahs karimin, are filled with goodness and filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate. So he says, even a reikon, a Rosh Gadol, is filled with good stuff, and Hashem can't help but have tremendous pleasure. Her, when a Jew speaks negatively about a Jew, even if you're saying truth, not your motzi shemra, you're slandering him. No, that's not lashon hara. Lashon hara means saying the truth. Who mevatel tainug haboiri is baruch kavayachal umevi by midas atzvos kavayachal. He destroys kavayachal Hashem's pleasure, and he puts kavayachal Hashem into a state of depression, atzvos, sadness. Ka'amar vayisatzev eliboy. When Hashem saw what's going on, he felt a sense of atzvos. B'meila umahapich me oineg lenega. L'chein schar mida keneged mida nagoyim boyim elav. Took Hashem's oineg, Hashem's greatest pleasure, that he loves every Jew and is crazy about every Jew, and you took his oineg and you turned it into Hashem's nega. You turn Hashem kivayachal into a menug, and now he feels sick and exhausted and depressed and quarantined and alone, like a leper who feels disconfigurated. A person looks at themselves, they feel that I'm not alive. That's what you did kavayachal to Hashem. You took away from him his greatest pleasure, his geschmack of life. What's his geschmack of life? Ayid, a child. You took it away from him. You told him how horrible this person is, because he's listening to the lashon hara. B'meila, that's what a person is, the reflection of Hashem, like we just learned from the Sfas Emes. So b'meila, it happens to the person also. His oinig becomes nega. Oinig and nega are the same words. The question is where the ayin is. It says in Sefer Yetzirah, Ein b'toiva l'mayla me oinig, ve'ein b'ra l'mayla me nega. It's the same thing. The only difference is where the ayin is. What do we say in the parsha? Lo yhafach ha-negas einoi, where the ayin is. Chidush Yorim says it's all about where the ayin is, where your eyes are, where your perspective is. I could look at a person and say, you bring out the beauty of a person. And then Hashem kvels, you just gave him oinek. So what happens? You're also in a state of oinek. And then you start speaking bad, and God goes from oinek into nega. The ayin changed. And what happens? The person himself also becomes a menugah. It's a result. Hashem is in a state of leprosy. I'm also in a state of leprosy. But Salmeinu Kidmaseinu, Hashem Tzilcha. The Baditchev says God is your shadow. What's that? God is your shadow, Hashem Tzilcha. Wherever you move, the shadow moves. The person goes into that state. Kivayachal, it's affected by Hashem. Now it's the opposite. He becomes the shadow of that. So that's what Lashon Hara is. Lashon Hara is, you can imagine it in your own life. What's one of the greatest pleasurable things a parent has? A stranger calls you up out of the blue on the phone, right? And says, I saw your daughter on Shabbos. I saw your son. I want to tell you something. Right? And you sit on the couch and your heart swells with tainuk. And then you get another call and it says, such a lowlife. Huh? Where did you raise these kids? Azar Rasha Merusha. Right? And what happens? Your day is ruined, your week is ruined, your month is... So the Moreh Naim says, why does it happen to parents? Because it happens to Hashem. You speak bad about a Jew, doesn't that, it could be it's a lav dafka, the guy is lying. If he's lying, obviously it's worse. But even if he's saying the truth, it destroys you. Not because he told you something new. Usually what's going on with your son and daughter, you know as well as the principal. If you're a normal parent, you know as well as the stranger.
But if you don't make up that truth, so you still have time.
No.
Because you know them. The truth is, you know that the Rusha is a beautiful person.
That's also true. Yeah, that's even deeper true. For Amru Razal, now we'll understand the Gemara. It says, G'doyle Lashon Hara Keneged Avodah Zarah Gilui Arayos U'Shvichas Damim. Lashon Hara is like the three cardinal sins. What in the world is the connection from Avodah Zarah to Lashon Hara? You could say it's not nice. Why am I worshiping idolatry? Why am I denying God? I'm not doing Avodah Zarah. I'm not Kaifa Baker. So we already understand one nekuda of this, which he's going to elaborate upon and go one step deeper. That is, there's no sin that's kivayachal a shtech to Hashem like Lashon Hara. A person can have a dispute with you in business. You have an employee, you ask him to do something, he does the opposite. You ask the contractor to put the wires there, and he puts the wires there. It happens ma'aseh b'chol yom. Hashem asks you to do this, you do the exact opposite. But when somebody comes and speaks Lashon Hara, what are they doing? He says they're taking Hashem's oineg and turning it into nega. That's a whole different experience. But now he goes a step deeper. Ha'inyan the pasuk says in Tehillim, "B'dvar Hashem shamayim nasu, shekol olam es v'chol habruyim nivru b'dibur b'chav beis eisis haTorah." The whole world, everything was created b'dvar Hashem. What's dvar Hashem? The 22 letters of Torah, Aleph through Taf. Those are the conduits, the channels of energy that create the world. Shehu nikra malchus shamayim. Oisius, the Oisius are called Malchus Shamayim. Why? We often learn that Malchus is Oisius. When somebody doesn't speak, nobody knows what you want. When you speak, people know what you want. It's a very important idea. Sometimes we expect people to know what we want, what we feel, what we're upset at. How is your wife supposed to guess? How is your child supposed to guess? Communication. That's what Malchus Shamayim is. You don't know what the Melech wants. B'dvar Hashem Shamayim Nasu. Where does the Malchus come out? The pasuk says, B'dvar Melech Shilton. He rules through the word. The word, it's through Dibuk. Shemedabrin is Galerit Sinai. So the Malchus could come out, the creation could come out through Dibur, and the continuous creation, which is the ultimate Malchus. Therefore, v'hu malchus shamayim u'malchusoi ba'koil mashallah. And this dibur is in everything. Because without the dvar Hashem, nothing would exist. The true existence, the chemistry of everything is the DNA. The DNA is the dvar Hashem. It's interesting, DNA today is considered letters, right? Today we look at creation and we understand it. We look at every organism and we understand that its ultimate underlying code is code. We compare it to computer code. It's not mamish letters, but that's the metaphor that's given. And thousands of years ago, when Chazal wanted to describe the world, they said, "Ba'asara ma'maros nivra ha'olam." It's basically it's a computer program. It's a code. Ba'asara ma'maros nivra. How do you have from 10 words the whole world? And the pshat is it's using the same oisius, the same 22 oisius, as he explains in Shari Yichud Ve'emunah, just in different configurations and so forth. So that's Malchus Shamayim. Ve'isa b'Sefer Yetzirah kav'on b'peh. Sefer Yetzirah, which is considered the most ancient work of Kabbalah, says Hashem took the 22 letters and he established them in one place, in the mouth. Shashem Yisbarach kavah chav beis oisius olam adibur Malchus Shamayim midis adnus sfosai tiftach kavah b'peh shel adam. Not pshat, he gave us an ability to speak. He took the 22 letters, the code of creation, and he gave it a place. He put it somewhere. He put it in the mouth of a person. The mouth of a person, that's the place called Malchus Shamayim. Midah of adnos, of rulership. That's why we say before we daven, Adna, Sfosai Tiftach, open up my lips. That's the place where his Malchus comes out, as we said, through communication. You express yourself. And what is creation? Creation is God expressing his energy in a revealed way. When I speak, it brings out what I want. The whole world was there before, but there was no way that it had a tangible existence. Dibur is its expression. V'hinei, Hashem Yisbarach eine medaber lashon hara al Yisrael, k'may sha'av eine medaber al b'nai. Hashem never ever speaks lashon hara about a Jew, just like a father will never speak about a child. You never heard at any conversation in the world, even the juiciest conversations, right? In the mikveh, at a table, simcha, people are outside with a cigarette, they're talking about this one, that one. The father comes in, or the mother says, I have a juicy story about you. My son is azam mamze, azak ganev, azak ritzeach. Am I going to tell you a juicy story? Unless he's a peta adam, he's a shaitim, a shuta, he's a chayira. But even a chayra wouldn't do it. Chayas take care of their children. But it's not what a father does. You don't sit and gossip about your child. Why? Because Hashem never does this about a Jew. It's not shaykh. How could you? How could you start gossiping about your kid? You'll do everything for your child. So, exactly, yeah, exactly. In b'machteres yimotzei haganev, right? Zorcha lav hashemesh, yeah? Yeah, in b'machteres yimotzei haganev, right? Nimtza, k'sha'adam medaber lashon hara, mare ba'atzmoi, she'omakchi she'diburo hu malchus shamayim, midis adna, v'lechein hu ka'oved avodah zarah. When I use my speech, and what am I doing with my speech? I'm speaking lashon hara. Really, what is my speech? Malchus b'kol mashallah. A person's speech, kavayachal, is a reflection of Hashem's speech. That's what our speech is. The chavbeis oises that we utter through our vocal cords, in any language it is, whether it's in Hebrew or any other language, which is based, the vocal cords have the ability to make all those pronouncing sounds. That is really divine speech. It's divine speech that uses as its vehicle human speech. That's why we say, Hashem sfasai tiftach. You're basically opening my lips. That's what it is. God's malchus comes out through our dibur. When I speak, who's speaking? It's really the divine speaking through me. That's what it is. Malchusay bakal mashallah. It's midas adnos. That's malchus shamayim. I'm opening my mouth to speak, and what do I use these words? I say, let me tell you a story about this and this Jew. Hashem would never, ever in a billion years do that. Now I do that. What happens? I'm showing that I'm completely alienated from the truth that my dibur is really malchus shamayim. It's midas adna. That's the avodah zarah here. V'zel maimer David hamelech alav hashalom. That's what David says. That's what the Gemara brings in Erkin. Asher amru lilishaynenu nagbir. Ritzoynoi loymar. Sha'oimrim harishayim nagbir lishaynenu ledaber. Ki svaseinu itonu mi odoin lanu. Ritzoynoi loymar she makchishim sha'adnu su befihem. They tell themselves, L'shaynenu nagbir. Let's allow our tongues, our languages to become powerful. Because svaseinu itanu, it's our own lips. Mi odain lanu. What does God have to do with our lips? They're completely not aware of the fact that Hashem's reality is all in bifiyem. When I open up my mouth, what's happening? It's like the divine opening his mouth through me. Adne sfasai tiftach. Harchiv picha va'amaleyu. In other words, when you open your mouth, you could do one of two things. Create worlds or destroy worlds. That's it. That's what you do when you open your mouth. As we say, either you're part of the solution or you're part of the problem. You're opening your mouth, you're either creating souls or destroying souls. One of the two. Either you bring chiyas to the world, or you take away chayas from the world. Either you bring life to people, or you take away life to people. I open my mouth, I start speaking Lashon Hara, what happens? I took God's, so to speak, mouth, his energy, and what do I do with it? I start bad-mouthing or gossiping about a Jew. He says that's the greatest embodiment of Avodah Zarah. Ki svaseinu itonu miyad v'zel ma'amarim. Now this is pshat in the Gemara Moed Katan, the Peladik Gemara Moed Katan Daf Tazayin. The Gemara quotes a pasuk in Shmuel Beis Chav Gimel. David HaMelech says that Hashem told him that he rules over the person, and Sadik Moishel B'yiras Elikim. So the Gemara teaches David HaMelech said that Hashem told him, I rule over people, and who rules over me? A tzaddik. Me Moishel be tzaddik. That's what the Gemara says. Hashem says, I rule over everybody, but I also have a boss. Who rules over me? A tzaddik. That's what the Gemara says in Maseches Moed Katan Daf Tazayin. That Hashem makes a gzeir and a tzaddik is mavatal. In other words, a tzaddik rules over me. So the Maranam says, what does this mean? He says, tzaddik ritzoyin eloim shat tzaddik moishel imi im hadibur shali shel malchus shamayim ha-moishlim b'chol ha'olam v'chol habruyim. Umi moishel be means who's moishel not on me, with me. He's moishel with what's pshat a real tzaddik? A tzaddik is somebody who understands that his words are basically always attuned to the divine. So when he opens his mouth, it's Malchus Shamayim opening its mouth. It's the Dibur of Hashem, and that rules over all the world. So when he opens his mouth, It affects. It's like electricity that affects all the worlds. Tzaddik moishel be. The tzaddik is moishel be through me. Because the chavbeis oisius are really the expression of Malchus Shamayim, which is the source of the energy of the whole world. So the tzaddik, whose words are always attuned with the divine, when he opens his mouth, the world is affected. The whole world is affected. Moishlim b'chal oilamus. So therefore, what's the Avodah Zarah here? The Avodah Zarah here is, on one level, on the simpler level, not so simple, but on one level, the person opens his mouth and really, so to speak, stabs Hashem by stabbing his children. Even deeper, he opens his mouth and he uses the words for Lashon Hara. So what happens now? He's taking the very words that are divine and completely detaching them. Mi Adain Lono, this has nothing to do with Adnus, and I'm just speaking on my own. So now I could speak about this person, speak about this person. But if a person would realize what his words are, he wasn't shaykh to this. Imagine I invite you to my Shabbos table. I give you food. You're sitting at my table. I give you a bed. You're enjoying my hospitality. At the table, you say, Rabbi Jacobson, I want to tell you a story. And you start telling me horrible things about my children, about my wife, about my father, about my mother, about my brothers, about my sisters. I say, you ready for the next course? Yeah, but I have another story for you. And now you go to the next child. Yeah? It's the most disgusting thing in the world. Get out of my house. Speak about it over there. I'm taking my mouth. What's my mouth? It's not only God inviting me. It's His energy. And it's actually His words. What am I doing? I say, I have something to say now. What do I have to say? I'm opening my mouth. What do I have to say? How horrible a father you are. Look at your children. He says, that's Avodah Zarah. How does one reach this state? When a person connects his words always to the letters of Torah which are divine, so his own dibur could become a reflection of Hashem's dibur. In Erkin Daftasov, there's a machlokes Chadam, one of the Amirayim says Siper. If somebody said Lashon Hara, Ein Lo Takana, there's nothing to do. The Chadam, the other opinion is Yasek B'Torah. Shenemar, it says in Mishlei, Marpe Lashon Eitz Chayim. Marpe Lashon Eitz Chayim literally means if you have a weak tongue, meaning you're not harsh, it's a tree of life. That's how the Mitzvah says. But the Gemara teaches Marpe Lashon Eitz Chayim. If a person gets the lashon of Torah, it's a refuah, marpe. It's Eitz Chaim becomes a tree of life. V'hinei bevadei loy pligi. Certainly they're not arguing. What do you mean? One shitta says ein loy takana. Another shitta says there is a takana. He says shezek klal b'chol Torah elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chaim. It's a principle in Torah. There's never a real ultimate argument. Two opinions, one yeah, one no. Both are true. You just have to realize where and when. V'hinei gam kan. If a person speaks Lashon Hara and then starts learning Torah, but it's not Lishma, Taka, there's no healing. There's two types of Torah learning. So Torah learning, I'm just learning. Then it's Taka Ein Lo Takana. That's the first opinion. The second opinion is through Torah. What type of Torah? I realize that it's God's words. I learn it lishma, meaning I want to connect with the divine energy, so my words become Torah-dika words. In other words, my dibur becomes refined and transformed. I introduce in my dibur Malchus Shamayim, then I can speak Lashon Hara. It's not I don't speak Lashon Hara. I can't speak Lashon Hara. When you realize what your words are, when you're opening your mouth, it's God creating the world through you. Tzaddik moishel b'yiras Elokim. You can't, it's Eitz Chaim, your words become a tree of life. When you just realize what your mouth is and what your words are. So the next time you open your mouth to speak, realize who's speaking. Who's speaking? It's the Rebbeinu Shalom wants to speak through you. He gave you a mouth, He put in the Chavbei Yosis, and that's why we're the only ones who speak. Why are we called Medaber? There's a lot of differences between humans and animals. We do a lot of things that animals don't do. The one distinction that we have is we're called Medaber. We also have a lot of similarities to animals, but we have a lot of unique things. We could call a person a maskil. We have seichel that they don't have. A certain level of seichel they don't have. We're called medaber. When it says in Bereshis, Vayhi Adam lenefesh chaya, what does the Targum say? Leruach memalala, a speaker. Why a speaker from all things? Memalala. A person has a lot of tremendous things. Our machshava is also different. But now we understand. The uniqueness of the person is that he's a medaber. Hashem created the world through words. We were given that gift. We perpetuate creation, or chas v'shalom, the opposite of it. So a person opens his mouth. That is Hashem's malchus. That's Hashem's dibur. Malchus peh. Hashem's sfasai tiftach. What's davening? Davening is, God, open my lips and speak through me. That's what real davening is. Ufi yagit l'asech. I want my mouth to become a conduit for you. So now you're telling me it's all very nice, but L'Poel Mamish, my kid says something and I lose it, and I open my mouth and I start screaming. So there's two. So one shit that says Ein Loi Takana, you're a lost case. The second shit is you have to start learning. So Menachem Chernobyl says, who's right? He says there's two types of learning. The type of learning, Taka Ein Loi Takana, this guy is helpless because the more he learns, the worse he gets. And he thinks his learning is masakin, and really it's the exact opposite because he doesn't understand what learning is. But if he understands what real Torah is, then yesh le takana, because his dibur will become a different dibur. And when he opens his mouth from now on, he'll realize, vu mishteit und fa wem mishteit. Wie mishteit und fa wem mishteit. Die Chassidim flaggen sagen Rosh Hashanah. Wie mishteit fa wem mishteit. When I was a kid, the Gabbai Rosh Hashanah before Tkiyas, before Mafti, he was a Polish Yid. He gave a clap and he said, "Mizal wissen fa wie mishteit und fa wem mishteit." That's how he was trying to get 10,000 people to be quiet, to be organized. Mizal wissen fa wie mishteit und fa wem mishteit. When you understand veret und fa wem meret, who's speaking, and before whom you're speaking, not only before, but who's speaking, then it's a different type of dibur. In other words, the reason we speak Lashon Hara is often because we don't understand, not because of anything else, because we don't understand who we are. We don't understand what our words are. When you understand your words, it's a whole different experience. And he finishes, V'zeu zois tia Torah sametzayra. So the question is, why here does it say the word Torah? Zois tia Torah sametzayra. You have different expressions where the Torah speaks about what to do in a certain situation, right? By Yom HaShmini, you could say, there's an introduction. Zois tia Torah sametzayra. This should be the Torah of the Mitzayra. It seems superfluous. Zog de moirenaim l'tzayne loymar. Zois tia Torah sametzayra. Ha Torah v'limud shal moitzi Rabbi Yom Ta'arasoi. Yiyeh k'dei lahalois u'lekasher es diburoi. Shehu malchus shamayim anikra zois lekasher la Torah. Va'az v'huve lakoyin yitzayni loymar al Hashem yisbarach hanikra koyin. The Rebbe say the Moirei Nayim here is zois tia Torah sametzayra b'yom ta'arasoi. The day that he wants to become clean, he needs Torah, like the Gemara says, Lashon, Marpe, Lashon, Eitz Chaim. He needs Torah. But what type of Torah? The Torah has to be one that elevates and connects and aligns his dibur, his words, his speech, which is Malchus Shamayim, with its source, with its real source. That's called Zois. Not to get into it by Riches, but in Kabbalah and Chassidus, Zois is femininity, which represents Malchus, represents Midas HaMalchus. So Zois tia Torah sametzayra b'yom ta'arasoi. The Torah has to be connected with the Zois, with the source of words, with Malchus Shamayim. That's what he needs. L'chalas l'kasha is diburei shel Malchus Shamayim anikra Zois l'kasha la Torah. That should be connected with the Torah that he learns. And then the pasuk continues, V'huva l'koyin, will be able to be realigned with the ultimate koyin. The Gemara says, Alekechem koyin hu. Hashem is defined as the ultimate koyin. And then he'll be aligned, and that becomes the source of cleansing. The moment they become aligned, then he knows God doesn't speak Lashon Hara about Jews. You also don't speak Lashon Hara about Jews. You don't. When you're a father, you don't speak Lashon Hara about your children. When you're aligned with a father, when you're my best friend, you're not going to speak Lashon Hara about my kids. And if you do, there's a serious detachment. You can't be somebody's best friend and badmouth their kids to other people. It just doesn't work. Doesn't work. This doesn't have to do when you speak to somebody or about somebody in order to help, right? We're not talking, we all have to understand that, right? When you come to a father, you want to speak to a father to help a child, that's not called Lashon Hara. That's called love. If I'm talking to a father or a mother because a child is going through a crisis, that's not Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara is one thing. Let me tell you how bad this guy is, right? It's a good juicy. I was once giving a speech. I told a story. So somebody says, Rabbi Jacobson, without names, who was it? What's a story without name? You give a name right away. It's like a schmack. I always knew this. That's a whole different Indian. When a person is telling a story to a parent because he wants the parent to be able to help this child, a real parent is grateful to you. A real parent is grateful to you. Thank you for sharing this. That's not the concept of Lashon Hara. A Yid comes to the Ribono Shel Olam and davens for another Yid who's having a challenge, yeah? You say, God, I need you to help this person. That's not Lashon Hara, fakert. A mother is grateful, a father is grateful for that. Lashon Hara is a different thing. Not is it's evil talk. It's speech of Ra. And this doesn't have to do if it's emes or if it's not emes. Doesn't even have to do if it's random or habitual. It's not only about damaging another person. Sometimes it doesn't damage another person. This gives a whole other dimension. The pnimi is the dimension to Lashon Hara. It's not just a social thing. It's not a nice thing. People could be damaged, right? Sometimes that's never going to happen. But the point is the etzem dibur, what it does for the Ribono Shel Olam, he says it takes from oineg and puts him into neg. On the other way, when you bring out the milas of a person, you praise a person, you extol a person, you bring out their greatness, you speak positively to them and about them, then God's heart swells with pleasure, with tainuk. Agit Shabbos, Afreilich in Shabbos.
What about vidui, the person that meets?
No.
In a way, speaks Lashon Hara on himself.
You're right. If the vidu is in a way of Lashon Hara, you're not allowed to speak Lashon Hara about yourself either. But the vidu is not Lashon Hara. If the vidu is Lashon Hara, then you're not allowed to do it. Lashon Hara means I'm gossiping about myself. Vidu, I'm not gossiping about myself.
You're saying the truth, but it's
I'm acknowledging because I want to fix. It's a whole different thing.
how is it different?
Again, if a person comes to a parent and says, I want to share something, I saw something about your son or your daughter, and I think this is how we can help. That's not Lashon Hara, fakert. That causes tainuk to parents. You want to be here for my child. Vidui, I'm coming to Hashem and I'm saying, not that I'm evil and I'm bad and I'm a loser and I'm a lo yutzlachnik, I'm the worst person in the world. No. I acknowledge my greatness and my purity, and that's why I'm upset about my mistakes and I want to fix them. That's not Lashon Hara. Speak Lashon Hara about yourself, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to gossip about yourself. You're not allowed to say how bad you are. But you're not saying how bad you are, you're saying how good you want to be. Yeah.
2 seconds. Can you give me a synopsis? I don't see how the cedar fits in. I understand the concept.
The greatest humiliating thing in the world for a person is that he's arrogant. So when you want to underscore humility, you bring in the Ezev, because that's the way, the type of humility we're talking about here is that he has to appreciate how humiliated he became as a result of the cedar.
To motivate him to the real height.
Yeah.
He picked the wrong
Yeah,
mountain.
he picked the wrong mountain.
Got it. Good.
You want to inspire him to achieve real height, real greatness. Tzaddik ke'erez balavon and yizke, like a great cedar tree.
Wow, yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Shminis shebeshminis, yeah.
Good Erev Shabbos.
You understand?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
want to inspire him to be really great.
Right.
You don't want him not to be great. But what type of greatness? The great.
Yeah.
His greatness was the greatness, right? Was a type of haughtiness that made him the most humiliating creature.
Right. He was wrong.
He picked the wrong type of greatness. Yeah. So you bring in both, for both, for the positive and for the negative. For the negative, in the sense, this is what made me such a lowly creature. This type of arrogance. This is how I could feel lowly now.
Right.
You understand? Yeah. On the other hand, there's a type of humility that will make me into the greatest person. Moshe Anov Moed, yeah.
The only way to achieve that is through another.
Yeah, that is Anova. It's not only achieve it, that is what Anova is. Anova is the greatest greatness, because that is Anova.
I find this is the problem with most of the good learners in yeshivas. They don't understand what humility is. They think arrogance is ego.
Right. There's two types of egos. There's an ego of being self-aware so you could fulfill your mission.
Yeah, who you are.
who you are. Aware, yeah.
Thank you.
I guess there's self-consciousness, self-awareness. Or somebody once said there's self-awareness and there's being aware of the self. Very big difference.
In your mind.
Just observing, speaking of words, I don't think it's said over in so many words. They don't speak much.
Say it good.
All the way around doesn't work.
I don't know how you can understand Sfas Emes if you don't learn Alter Rebbe's Torah. Huh? Rav Deitcher. And the Moirei Nayim too. It's yeah. No, the Moirei Nayim says Filet Rosh Gomer. Yeah. I said I was once giving a shiur. There were chassidim over there who come from the Geza of the Moirei Nayim. Their Rebbe is a descendant of the Moirei Nayim, and they learn Moirei Nayim over there constantly. Yeah, and I said over something. I said of art, Hashem loves every Jew. He's tainug of every Jew, even a Jew's a Rosh Gomer. Apikursis kfira. Das ist dein Rebbe. Das ist dein Rebbe. Stein Rebbe, you're not learning his Sfarim, you're not learning his Torah. I made this up. It just doesn't say it with a pilpul, he says it as is. It's one of the Yesaitis Achsidis, one of the Yesaitis of the Baal Shem Tov, to understand what a Jew is. To understand what a Jew is, fakert. It's not just Hashem also loves him. In the very pain is the love. That's why you're so pain. That's what I was explaining. It's not just he loves him also. Even the pain is an expression of the love. I showed them. I showed them. But I said, how do you don't learn these things? What do you think he's talking about? He's talking about Rishayim somewhere in Atzilus. He's talking about a Jew down there that's an Eikon. He's an empty pustakeli. Still Hashem looks at him and he says he has tremendous tainug from him. Tainug means he's tremendous pleasure. I love this guy. You don't have tainug from things you hate. Huh? No.
It's okay to keep these if you made it.
You should keep it. Keep it. You should keep it. Okay.
You got a seamless Gemara on the page. It was a nice cut and paste? Or
I worked hard on that. I worked hard. 5 o'clock in the morning.
No, it's a beautiful piece.
I worked hard. I had to find this Sfas Emes, the Moirei Nayim, and bring it together.
It's a beautiful job.
I thought Erev Shabbos, Parshas Tazria, going into Mitzvah, it's kedai to learn this stuff. Huh? 1 second, huh?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. So today at the beginning you said that we don't have this infinity called Saras. But it comes out, I think, from what you said, tell me if I'm wrong, that there is a level of like a soul is burdened with it, even though you don't.
Yeah, that's true.
So what will be the source for that? Because I've heard that said before, but I didn't. Someone said that once, but what would be the source?
I don't remember.
And also the second question would be, the Sefer Yisir is mentioned in the Chumash, right? So how would you date that as far as the earliest work of the Torah?
Says it's brought from Adam, from Avram Avinu. It's brought from Avram Avinu. Some say Rabbi Akiva. It's very ancient. Yeah, very ancient. Very ancient. Kavon bepeh, the 22. It says the 22 sources of energy Hashem put into our mouth. That's our mouth. Malchus Shamayim, Hashem Svasai Tiftach. When you open your mouth to speak, in many ways it's God speaking. It's Hashem speaking. The rest?
It's the first action after consciousness. It's the first action, first vibration after consciousness.
Yeah. Was sagst du? What do you say? For was? Gut. Gut. Ja, ja. Das ist gewinn der Kavane.
I can recognize a beautiful cut and paste.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much.
You must have some good tools. Say that the people, there was an art that the people used to have where they could make a document look real, but it wasn't real.
Right, right.
They save lives in the war you're doing it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.